All right, welcome to part 12 of the St. Louis Spirits series. I literally just finished part 11, but I just wrapped up our fifth consecutive NBA championship. Let's look at the league history and look at, I don't need records, but let's look at NBA history. Look at that. That is some just absolute domination right there. The Chris Mullin MVPs being bookended by the Hakeem ones. God, what a beautiful alternate reality I have created. But now, let's see what our future of the reality is. Actually, there was one thing that I was going to do, and I mentioned last episode, was look at who would be the dream team. This is the summer of the dream team. All right, all players, point guards. The best point guard in the NBA is Michael Adams. Ron Harper, Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas famously did not make the dream team. Magic Johnson, John Stockton. Yeah, I think it would probably have. I mean, Michael Adams, I believe, has some All NBA pedigree. Let's go to that. Yeah, a couple first teams. He didn't make it last year, but was an All Star at least. And then Magic was first team for a couple years. Yeah, I think you have to go with Magic. Ron Harper doesn't have the first team All NBA. I mean, realistically, it probably should be Isaiah Thomas along with Magic, but it's probably Michael Adams. Shooting guards, of course, Michael Jordan. Clyde Drexler also made it. Reggie Miller did not make the team, but he is coming off. I mean, he's only coming off third team All NBA. That's not a you must have him kind of guy. Our guy Mitch Richmond has not gotten the individual accolades that you might want. Um, hasn't honestly probably would be an All Star if he were with a different team, but obviously he's gonna fall just short. And then Drazen Petrovic, of course, a not an American, so that's easy to resolve. Uh, Small forwards, obviously Len Bias. Chris Mullin, I think the guy won three MVPs of the finals in a row. A four-time All-Star, hasn't made an All NBA team, which I find a little bit strange, but I think you still have to go with him. You might bring Larry Bird as kind of the veteran. You kind of make that argument for Dominique Wilkins too, but he didn't make the team in real life, so who knows really. Small forward, Karl Malone for sure. Walter Berry has not made first team All NBA. Barkley has made three. I think Barkley gets that nod. James Worthy hasn't made an All NBA team. Tisdale hasn't either. I think that's pretty cut and dry, honestly. Centers, yeah, David Robinson, yes. Hakeem Olajuwon. I don't know what his. I believe that if I'm not mistaken, in '92 he was not a citizen, so he was not eligible, but he was eligible in '96. So I mean, I think on the merits he would make it along with David Robinson, but I think that they'd be perfectly fine just being like, "Hey, Patrick Ewing, do you want to be on this team?" Guy that's made an All NBA team three of the last 4 years. Yeah, that's fine. We'll allow you. Sabonis obviously wouldn't be. Ralph Sampson has some All NBA credentials, but they're getting a little bit older. Yeah, Moses Malone just kind of stopped doing things basically when this alternate universe took over. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. The thing with the dream team is that a lot of the guys were past their prime, so it is a little bit hard to judge because Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, these guys were not peak of their powers in 1992. Jordan, Barkley, Malone, Stock, like they had some guys that were, but for the most part, not really. Player retirements, there's Jack Sikma, the guy that I was surprised last video was still in the league. Bernard King, who I always think of Bernard King as being like a guy from the 70s or something. I think I'm confusing him and Earl Monroe. But yeah, not any. Oh, Mark Eaton retired, which he probably wasn't going to come back anyway, but he was just kind of a rotation player for us. But, goes out with a ring, so that's pretty cool. Sikma and King are both Hall of Famers in reality. By the standards of what actually goes into the Hall of Fame, yeah, I would think that they would be. Maybe not King, honestly, but Sigma probably would be. But I doubt they're going to make it in this particular context. Do we have any spirit retirements here? Do not. Jersey retirements, Jack Sigma. Sorg changes clock only reset all hits rim. Yeah, that happened. Bulls, yeah. Bunch of logo uniforms and floor changes, none of which affect us. We will be moving into what will be known at the time as Kiel Center within a couple years. We haven't gotten there yet. So at this point, we just have the shot clock change. Now let's do the draft lottery. Let's see what kind of, we have good odds, and we'll see if we want to make some sort of radical kind of revisit. In theory, we could also like trade down and get a bounty of picks, but like, are we really going to want those guys later too? And they're probably not going to be number 2 picks. Let's see. Obviously, we don't have to pay super close attention until we get to the 5th pick. That's the furthest we could go. No jumps so far. So the other Bucks pick advance. So this could very realistically be us right here. It's not though. So the Suns go 5th. So the 4th pick will either be us or whoever it was that had the best odds. Wait, the Bulls pick's not. Is the Bulls pick protected? It's supposed to be a. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on here, but regardless, yeah, it looks like we're not getting. Looks like we're not getting Shaq, which is fine because we don't really need to rebuild in that sort of way. So Rockets and Trailblazers, the Clyde Drexler lottery. Okay, the Blazers go 2nd. Rockets go 1st. So let's look at the draft order, see what we have here. We have the 19th pick, we have the 23rd pick, 27, 28. So we can move up if we want to. Probably can't move up to like the elite guys. But if there's a player that we just like, I'm not going to lie, I don't remember who our coach was. I straight up forgot who it was. Joshua Willis sounds familiar. Now, I'm pretty sure whoever our coach was won Coach of the Year at least once. Josh Ball, maybe? It could be Josh Ball. Obviously, Stouffer was our original coach. William Murray. Yeah, the fact that you're not able to like see the stats is kind of a weird part of things. See if there's any other guys that have won Coach of the Year. Maybe not. So let's try William Murray. Head scout. Let's just get whoever has the best analytics. We'll go with Luis Chandler. All right, we got both of our guys. So it says we need an assistant coach. We don't actually have authority to hire that. So sim through, combine, pre-draft workouts. Yeah, we're going to do the same thing we normally do, which is just scout the high-end guys. Maybe we're going to want to get these guys down the road. Okay, so anybody that's a B minus or higher is going to get the scouting treatment from us. Let's see what Shaq is measuring at. An 84. I mean, that's obviously very good. Let's see if there's anybody that's like a real diamond in the rough type. Clarence Weatherspoon is ranked 20th. He's a 78. That would be interesting. kind of look at this roster and see what do we need, what would be helpful. Honestly, wouldn't say no to another small forward like Weatherspoon, but I assume the Rockets are going to take Shaq here. They do. Lonzo goes to the Blazers. Bucks trade for oh wow, yeah, a third overall and a top 10 protected to get Shaquille O'Neal. That's kind of the sort of move we usually make. But now the Rockets are going to take Jim Jackson. Man, that is underwhelming compared to Shaq. Christian Laettner to the Suns. Walt Williams. I'm going to see who's available under the scouting screen. I don't know whether it's going to be worth my while to try to trade up. I mean, LaFonso Ellis is an 80. Do I want a LaFonso Ellis or a Tom Gugliotta? Maybe, but I'm going to wait a few picks before I would do that. So LaFonso Ellis goes, Tom Gugliotta goes. So yeah, looks like I'm probably just going to sim to the user pick. Got some trade offers based on the loading screen. Let's see what's being offered to us. Okay. Not seeing any like huge bounties. You know, the Sonics are offering us a couple coming picks. In theory, that's a pretty decent value for the pick, but you know, I have so many picks coming up that I don't necessarily have that much desire for another one. Not doing a whole lot. Okay, so let's see who's available. We have three guys who are C pluses. Anthony Peeler, who's a Mizzou guy, so obviously I love that. Yeah, James Silas as the peak is a little underwhelming. Adam Keefe, don't have as much information on him, but you know, was not a great player in life. Yeah, I gotta be honest, I feel like I probably would be happy to trade down here. What if we packaged another one of our? Let's try to package this Hawks pick. Yeah, I'd be willing to trade like a host of first round picks to get future firsts. I don't know if I want these protections though. That's a little bit just kind of unexciting. But I mean, I guess these are like basically second round picks in some way. So like, you know, the Kings would offer us top three protected. Probably isn't going to come up because they have Len Bias. But Pistons could be kind of old by this point. I'm going to do this trade. So let's see what happens here. John Barry is still available. You know, looking at the names available, like Doug Christie is probably the most appealing NBA player of this group, and then like Hubert Davis, the coach North Carolina now, but at this point, a player. John Barry's a good shooter, so that's at least interesting. Yeah, let's go ahead and just take John Barry. I'm content with that. Um, say I have an obvious steal. I don't know if that's actually true, but let's say we're getting offered some picks for this could be this could be very good. I know the Hawks are a good team, but if they fall off, that would just be a huge windfall. Not necessarily interested in these swaps per se. Yeah, I'm gonna do that trade with the Hawks. So we do still have a second round pick. We'll sim through. We'll see if there's anybody that's out there that's interesting. A bunch of D pluses. Are any of these guys remotely interesting? Gonna just try to look for a guy who has a good player comp. So far, none of them do. I'm assuming that this is a. I'm trying to remember. Is Brian Davis the guy that? It's definitely a guy named Davis, but the guy that like after Leitner hits the shot against Kentucky is just like losing his mind. I feel like he might be. You know, I'll draft one of these guys if I have to, but if I can trade the pick for just about anything, I'll take it. I cannot. So yeah, we're the spirits. We like a guy with spirit. So Brian Davis, welcome aboard. I imagine we're not going to draft, or I imagine we're not going to sign this guy, but whatever. That's probably true of any of these guys. They're suggesting to accept, but I'm inclined not. I will accept John Barry's though. Do that. Team player options. We'll accept Tim Hardaway's 91. Yeah, J.R. Reed. Honestly, Reed is probably tradable. I wouldn't mind kind of rather than having like a bunch of guys who are like low 80s to mid 80s players. I wouldn't mind having somebody that's just a little bit better as just like a rotational big. All right, so I'm going to accept Mitch Richmond's qualifying offer. I don't really want Steve Kerr's. He kind of keeps lingering on this team. He's a four-time champion, but like just isn't that good of a player. Okay, not offered. Well, somehow these guys keep coming back, so I'm not going to dismiss the possibility that that happens. Not a lot of players on the roster. A lot of guys, I guess, in sort of free agency limbo. So we might want to just check this out, see who all is available. So Mitch Richmond, yeah, RFA. Yeah, the guys that are marked as available, there's not a lot of them. Nobody that I'm willing to like exactly break the bank for, all due respect to the late great Anthony Mason. Okay, so Mitch Richmond is prepared to accept an offer from the Hornets. I mean, he was one of the best offensive players on this team. I feel like it would be crazy not to keep him around. Who else do we have? Who do we have that there's bird rights on? Steve Kerr, who is still mentioned as having qualified an offer, which I mean, 78, he's fine. I'm not going to be like furious if he's back on the team. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So let's look at what this roster looks like right now. So Richmond's not showing yet, but he will be. Mullen, Hardaway, J.R. Reed. Did Rick Fox play all last year? He did not, so he'll still be a rookie, I guess. But and then John Barry as well. Let's see who's marked as affordable. Probably like getting some sort of big man makes sense, but I'm not sure that there's necessarily anybody that like is going to be better than just some random guy kind of pick up off the scrap heap in a few months anyway. I definitely don't want to give term to any of these guys. Like they're all fine, but okay. So that's fully done. Yeah, now the guys that are marked as affordable. I mean, like Danny Shays. That Daryl Dawkins still around? Wow. Huh. Okay. I'm gonna sim some weeks, see if there's any guys whose numbers start to move down. I feel like we're gonna end up filling up a lot of this depth chart with just sort of whatever guys. I'm kind of wondering what is the amount that this team's willing to spend. Like Greg Anderson, for instance, is a UFA. Okay, yeah, I'm only able to offer the minimum. I'm a little surprised I don't have why I don't have bird rights on him. Maybe there's some sort of explanation that I just straight up don't remember. This is just not a lot of players on this roster. I'm still a little confused what exactly is going on, but Rick Fox has improved, could actually be like a rotation player this year. If JR Reed's our power forward, I'm not opposed to it, but also we need to get some depth obviously behind them. Let's go to the summer league. Let's fill out that. So, yeah, the two most recent first round picks. We'll go back to the tradition of me actually like trying to compete in summer league. Chris Childs, Steve Henson. Yeah, let's bring you in. And then we have a two-star Corey Gaines. Yeah, Hersey Hawkins is available. That's pretty good. Byron Irvin. Loy Vaught. Kind of like the archetype of what I think of when I think of 1990s Clippers. It's probably not fair to really anybody. Even with like picking some of the best guys and the guys that are the best has been fit, I feel like this team's not actually, even by summer league standards, all that good. But we'll see what happens here. We'll just simulate through summer league. Got eliminated. Okay. Congratulations to the Nets. San Antonio's getting the All Star game. Let's see what happens there. I guess. Let's load the 1993 draft. There's that 1993 accurate. 49-year-old dudes. I don't know. Like I'm not even. I don't think it's the same guy that I've been using. So I might have to just double check that class and make sure that it's not like totally messed up. But regardless, there's our spirits. Let's see who the computer ended up signing. Bunch of guys that aren't that good. Yeah, a bunch of like 72, 71. See, Bart Kofa was like the one guy I sounded familiar. I was wondering if he had been on the team previously, but I don't think so. So let's try to see who's available in free agency. Hopefully, some good. Oh my God, Karl Malone. Okay, come on. That cannot be. What on earth? That's obviously messed up. Greg Anderson's available. Like, very clear. I don't care for Karl Malone, but if he's just available, of course I'm going to take Karl Malone for. Has happily accepted the offer from the St. Louis Spirits. Okay, man. Sure. All right, I got to start releasing some guys here. This is going to be a comical team. This little simulation's already getting out of hand. Okay, let's see what are some positions that we have just too many guys at. Yeah, let's get Scott Hastings and Jim Peterson out of here because, like, when are they ever possibly going to play? Let's get Tony Brown out of here. What's the center situation? Okay, I mean, we have one backup center. We'll leave this guy around, but I mean, realistically, he's never ever going to play. Okay, we have to have at least 11 players on our roster. Let's start signing some guys who are available. Okay, Jared Jenkins. What was going on that nobody was offering these guys? That just doesn't even make sense, like even in like a fake kind of way. Okay, so Jared Jenkins, welcome to the team. Sidney Moncrief, who has spent his entire career with the Bucks, is now available for the league minimum. Okay, we don't get Alvin Robertson. We get like the rich man's version of Alvin Robertson. All right. What happened to Pippen? There's Pippen. Do we bring Pippen back? No, we are cutting Pippen loose. Getting Orlando Woolridge. Sure. Honestly, I might end up trading these guys, like some of them, because let's get Fernando Martin. He doesn't have the veneer of decline. Okay, so we now have a 15 player roster. Yeah, one in which, yeah, poor John Barry and Rick Fox just are out of the rotation now because they're just completely loaded at everywhere else. Dear God. Okay, yeah, this is an absolute like lineup of death right here. But that's gonna be it's gonna be what happens, I guess. It seems available for contract extensions. I assume that I'm not gonna get these other guys, but yeah, this team pretty good. Prospect scouting. Okay, Chris Webber. Yeah, looks about right. So, yeah, congratulations, team. We are champions. We have won a championship. We have won an off season, and the St. Louis Spirits are the greatest dynasty since the Celtics. All right, thank you for watching. Based on how crazy the free agent market went, I'm not sure that I'm necessarily going to keep this particular series up that much longer. I think I may have proven my point, but if not, I'll figure something else out to do. But thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.